Welcome everybody to Circle Back to You. I'm your host, Jason Wilson. Today we have Caleb Nelson. Welcome to the show, Caleb.
Thank you for having me here, man. This is it's been fun getting to know you so far, and I'm looking forward to just keeping the friendship growing. So
A-
just excited for the conversation.
Absolutely, me too, man. Listen, before we get into anything, it wouldn't even be right if I continue this interview with shouting out Shelly Starks. She introduced us. She's introduced me to so many phenomenal people, and Caleb is no exception. Caleb is the founder and owner of Naked Sunday. We're going to get into that, but he helps burnout entrepreneurs balance their time and energy through holistic lifestyle transformation. So, Caleb, this is going to be a great conversation. We want to hear all about Naked Sunday, how you created it, how you came up with that idea, what it is, and how can people get involved. So,
Absolutely.
give us a little background information about yourself.
I'm Caleb Nelson. I've been in the health, wellness, fitnessy industry thing, whatever you want to call it, for it seems like forever. I've done almost every job in the fitness industry. We were talking about this the other day, but especially I've been coaching for about 15 years now. I've been an entrepreneur for, I don't know, 12, 13 years, something like that. And along the journey, I think many entrepreneurs, many business owners, many people who just go down the path of their thing, following their passions, they eventually hit a roadblock in their thing. They kind of lose sight of what's going on because how do you say it's that you lose sight of the forest through the trees and in that kind of lens. So a few years ago, I started this thing called Naked Sunday, and before that, I'd been through a business fallout. I'd opened a second gym. I had this big, massive, beautiful space, clients, and all the other fun things. I've had numerous different business partners. We had chiro, we had massage, we had this whole wellness center vibe. And I had just all this stuff. I had so many things I was keeping track of, and I got burnt out just trying to keep up with the Joneses, essentially. I didn't realize it at the time. And as somebody who has been coaching fitness and health and well-being for a long time, at that point, I was at the heaviest I'd ever been in my life. I was sitting probably around 205, 210 pounds. I had just gotten married. I had just coming back from my honeymoon or pseudo honeymoon. And there I was in the worst shape of my life, which is especially not a good look when you're a coach and you're trying to help people on their health and wellness journey. So there was some reckoning of sorts to do that. But how Naked Sunday itself came about, it's a funny story. So my wife, for whatever reason, we just, like I said, we just come back from our honeymoon, and she's like, I heard this about this thing that Christina Aguilera does. Her and her husband apparently do this thing called Naked Sunday. And I joke all the time, like I never thought I would have to thank her for anything. I don't know her human. I know nothing about her. I know nothing about her. Mind you, my wife and I had been together for several years before this, but what newly married guy is going to be like, my wife wants to hang out naked with me for a day? Yeah, sign me up. This is great. So, on the surface, not the most altruistic of intentions with this situation. So I'm like, I'm in. Let's go. First Sunday comes around. Naturally, my wife's like, I feel bloated. I don't feel good. I'm out. Committed to the cause because I'm gonna make this a thing. I go forward with it, and I'm really obviously clearly I'm really glad that I did because it sent me on this deep, beautiful, what I'd call spiritual journey of learning how to develop a better relationship with myself and ultimately a better spiritual relationship. And the way I say this, I sat there literally butt naked on this first day. I should give context. There's been other times in my life. I remember probably 8 years before that, I was sitting in a hot tub butt naked and I sold a membership to somebody because I just didn't care. I was just shredded to the nines. I'm young and a little brash and whatever. And here I was, and I'm here in my own home, and my skin was crawling, just like I couldn't be with myself. And it was such a telling moment. I sat there and I don't know what came over me, but I asked myself this question: why do I love myself? And after a little bit of a pause, sitting there in my crippling anxiety around it, I was like, I don't. I hate myself. And it took looking at my wife without lifting a finger, saying anything, or doing anything. It just, I looked over at her and she was doing some work or whatever she was over there. And I was like, well, why does she love me? And from her, she saved me from, because I could see from her lens for a moment that I had value beyond just my business acumen or my physical attributes. She didn't care. She cared about the man that I was, the person that had stayed by her. And she'd been with me in all states of different fitness and all different states of business ups and downs and in all of it. And in that moment, I realized my worth was something different than just these external things. And I realized that I was doing all this crazy stuff, jumping from one extreme thing to the next, chasing ultimately external validation, other people's approval. Come to find out, most of those people just didn't care or didn't know, and it didn't matter. And I was trying to get some approval to say I was enough. And in that, I'd overwhelmed myself so much that I got to this point where I would self-soothe with food. I would dissociate from certain things. I would just numb out and just check out on the weekend. I'd fallen out of love with fitness, this thing that had inspired me and I'd helped change. I mean, I've coached probably a few thousand people at this point in my life. I'd helped so many people on different levels, but for whatever reason, I couldn't rectify this internal enoughness, this internal spiritual relationship because it was on other people's terms. And I went on this journey. And the beautiful thing that happened when I had that that edge come off, when she gave me that glimpse without doing a thing, it was like, wow, that took the edge off. Let me logically look at what's going on in my life. I don't need to jump to some new extreme onto some other dogma and follow some other cult thing. Just go back to the basics, go back to what works. And something as simple as like, well, you were stressed out on Tuesday last week and you crushed a sleeve of Oreos. Well, what could you do next time? Then it was maybe have half a sleeve or maybe none at all and have a banana or some, a smoothie or whatever the thing is. And it slowly rebuilt this relationship with my body, but more importantly, rebuilt all the other elements in my life. I started to consider, what are my core values? What are the relationships I'm keeping myself around? What's the type of work that truly inspires me? And I started to realize I needed a lot less. And I started to declutter my life and I started to make more space for the people and the things that I value most in the direction I want to go. So it ultimately evolved. I ended up closing that gym during the pandemic and I wandered off into the internet space, and I've helped entrepreneurs and I've helped other executives deal with this whole thing called work-life balance because I had struggled with the same thing. How do I get my time back? How do I feel present in my relationships? Because I always felt like I was just the observer. I wasn't fully there in the moment with people. You know what? If you want to be a father one day, you and I were just talking about this before, like my wife and I are expecting our first kid in August. If I want to be a father, last thing I want to do is feel like they're just some bystander while dad's doing his thing and we're not connected. That would feel like a true failure as a parent. So that's the journey I've been on, and where Naked Sunday started and a little bit of where it's going.
I mean, that's such a phenomenal story, Caleb. And, I can relate to that on so many levels. I was in the fitness industry too for more than 10 years. And I think that everybody in the fitness industry specifically had that same problem. I mean, we're so used to taking care of other people, we forget about ourselves. So in that whole process, you were able to basically transition to Naked Sundays and doing this business online. Now, will this be a physical location?
I am getting back to some in-person again because I was craving that in-person connection. So there's a spot down the road. I am going to start doing some in-person elements of this. I welcome local clients over to my home because what I've come to learn is the world is your wellness center. How you organize your life wherever you are, that can be a space for health and healing and well-being. So I like to put people in a lot of different, sometimes I go to their house, sometimes all of the different things. I say that now, but I also am feeling called to have my own space again someday because there was something very powerful about our communal space. One of the greatest compliments I was ever given from a friend of mine, and also he's been a client. He's lost I think he lost 40, 50 pounds working together. We still work together to this day. Um, he was also somebody who helped me really dive into like my spiritual self. Um, he said, Caleb, this my gym was called Purebred Athletics. He's like, Caleb, you know what? This place is more like what a church is supposed to be than any church I've ever been in. And he's been in plenty of different churches, because what you could see on any day was we'd have a group of people, we'd have like small groups and one-on-one, that kind of stuff. You could walk in and people might be talking about politics, sex, religion, drugs, parenting, whatever, all the things. Like name your topic, including the taboo ones, with people of all different sides of the aisle on all parties. And everybody could get along. But the central thing was we were all coming there to take care of ourselves, to come back to our bodies, to take care of our health. And there's something about that where you're communing over like the nourishment of the self and the conversations that happen along the way. That to me was truly powerful. It felt like a home away from home for people, where they could come back and reconnect when things get really wild and crazy outside. And you can also be around people who could have meaningful conversations without breathing down your neck and judging you and kicking you to the curb just because you're curious about a certain topic or whatnot. So yeah, long way of my forward thinking towards a calling to have a formal space again.
That was a great description. Now, in the program, is it for weight loss or different fitness goals?
Ultimately, fitness is what we're looking for. Like, how fit do you need to be? When I work with clients, their sport often is split. I think of it like a two-sport athlete. You're trying to be a parent and a better entrepreneur. So you're a better leader in all areas of your life. And what most people struggle with is they put on a couple extra pounds, right? They're dealing with this desktop warrior lifestyle, and they're probably using food as a coping mechanism to like shut down some of the nerves, and they're not moving as much anymore. So, their former athlete self of when they were a younger kid and didn't have family and responsibilities, usually that. Some people like they're a different thing where they just want to get a little stronger or whatnot, but ultimately they want to get more fit and they want to be more focused. They want to be more clear headed when they are showing up for those big events in their life, like family events and their work, their creative spark. So ultimately it's how do we help not just feel better in your body and create more fitness, but as well, how do you create more clarity and fulfillment in the rest of your life? And what I've learned with that is you become a higher performing individual and you are happier and more fulfilled in what you're doing. But it takes some space to do that, and it shows up on your calendar.
So, who are your ideal clients?
Well, mostly anybody who wants to grow. That being said, what I have learned, and we were joking about this yesterday, for whatever reason, moms always have been like the people that have been attracted to me the longest. For whatever reason, they always show up out of the woodwork. I love working with my moms because I feel like they're the unsung heroes in so many things. And that mom energy tends to be what keeps that community, that connection together. They're the heart of the family, right? Like the family flows through them. That's a very dynamic energy, but especially in a business, the energy flows through them. So I also find that they get very little recognition. They get very little, I think me giving some thumbs up there. They get very little recognition. They get very little acknowledgement. They also feel really guilty about making time and space for themselves. They're great at running around and taking care of all the other people in their life. And especially that's why they've risen to some success in business, because all these other people are like, wow, she's so awesome. She takes great care of me. I feel like I'm part of this family when I'm away from home and I'm working at my job. And then they go home and they do the same thing for their entire family, for their husbands and their kids and everything. And all of a sudden they're like, who's checking in on you? So I find it truly like a great gift and responsibility and calling to be able to serve those people, because they operate from this service and servant mentality to give and love everybody else. And they need a little more love too, because when they have all that energy, all they do is they pay it forward right away. They can't help themselves but keep loving on people. So that there's something really powerful behind that kind of energy.
I agree 100%. So, Caleb, how can people find you?
if they're ever interested in going for the program, I call it the Empowered Leader Project. You just go to my website, nakedsundaystudios.com, or you can follow me on Instagram, Naked Sunday Studio. It's at Naked Sunday Studios. My personal one is at Lebin Real Life, but you'll see most of the same things. I got a podcast, which is on Spotify and on YouTube, and I think it's also on Apple Podcasts. Anyway, Naked Sunday podcast is the thing. If you look for neon pink and neon blue, you're in the right spot. It's very like 80s color. So like that's the kind of vibe you're going to see with that kind of thing. Those would be some places where you can hang out, listen to some conversations. And again, if you're interested in getting in on the Empowered Leader Project, you just go right to the website, nakedsundaystudios.com.
Great, man. So Caleb will be on our Freedom Fight Expo event next month in June, which is actually Men's Health Awareness Month. So be sure to catch him there. Caleb, thank you so much for being on the show. We will have you back, sir.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Take care.